Hello, Devin. Just wanted to let you know that I am enjoying all of your podcast episodes. I just got the chance to listen to your newer episodes, and yep, still impressed. I love learning about all things yerba mate, so thank you for continuing to make this content. I have a question for you. I wanted to know, have you tried any Uruguayan, Paraguayan, or Brazilian yerba mate thus far? I know in Brazil they call it chimarrão, and the process is a little bit different. But Uruguayan and Paraguayan sherbas might be up your alley. Wanted to know if you've tried any of them yet. For me, I love Del Salvador for Uruguayan sherba. I love La Rubia for the Paraguayan sherba. And when it comes to Brazilian chimarrão, for me, you can't go wrong with Barão. I hope I'm pronouncing this stuff right because I am a gringo. We did get the chance to talk on Instagram a couple times. So, yeah, you know you have a fan. I'm going to keep listening, so keep doing your thing. Take care, Devin.
Awesome, Zach. Thank you so much for your message. You made me laugh with the, I'm hoping I pronounced it right because I'm a gringo. You did fine. So I haven't actually tried any of those three that you mentioned, believe it or not. Shocking, I know. So as far as Uruguay, I have tried Canarias, which is obviously one of the fan favorites. And I know this also may be shocking, but not one of my favorites. I tried the yellow package, which is the classic one, the green one, La Serena, which is kind of the lighter one, and I had one of the like ginger flavored ones. It's like in a uh, reddish, um, caramel colored, I think. But yeah, that one was the ginger one was interesting to me just because of the smell and taste. But another Uruguayan one that I've tried is El Moncayo, which I'll put links to all the ones that Zach mentioned and what I just mentioned in the show notes right here. El Moncayo is a compuesta, which means it's a mixture. So it has like mint and uh, lemon, some other kind of herbs, chamomile, some other kind of mix of different herbs in there with it. And also, it's a pretty good price, cheaper one. Anyways, so as far as Ximango, unfortunately, I'm not versed in that at all. Um, I have tried it one time back in the day, just to try it was the Ximango, because it was like one of the, I guess, the popular ones that I've heard of, and I couldn't figure out how to prepare it correctly, which I've been waiting for someone to come on here to talk about Brazilian yerba and teach me how and all that kind of stuff. So if you're listening, please would love to learn. Um, and as far as Paraguay, I've tried Paraguay. I've tried um, Curupi, which is actually one of my uh, top five, one of my favorites. Um, it's very minty. It's more for tereré, but the mint and boldo, which is delicious, one of my favorites. There's also a lemon and mint. Um, if you like lemon, personally, the mint and boldo is the best. And uh, a U.S. version, Toma Yerba Mate here in New Jersey. He has his yerba from Paraguay, very organic, very earthy. But I have not tried La Rubia and La Selecta, which are also two recommended, which were also recommended to me by Frank of Ferba Products. Frank was on episode 27. He talked about Paraguayan yerba mate in Canada. So if you go back to listen to 27, he'll recommend that as well. La Rubia and La Selecta was one of his two bigs. So La Rubia, I'll have to try those both. So thank you for the recommendation. I'll have to let you know when I do try them. And thank you once again for your message. And also my top five recommendations, if you are curious of, my top five favorites, anyways, and why they're my favorites. If you go to episode 18, which I can put links to that there, you can hear the rest of them. So thank you again, once again, Zach, for your message and for listening and being a follower. Really, really, truly appreciate you and your why I do what I do. Welcome to the Yerba Power podcast, where we share the power of yerba mate with the world. I'm your host, Devin. Today's episode is going to be a very, how do I put this, monumental episode because it's about preparing your first mate. And I have one of my friends, mentors, coaches, Pete Beskas, who is going to be the quote unquote guinea pig for this episode. I helped him get started preparing his very first mate, having not drank yerba mate ever before. We did a video for this, so if you want to check out the video, it's on YouTube as well for this episode. And I'll put everything in the show notes for you guys. So we go through everything about preparing your first mate, the water temperature, how to kind of make it taste good, doctoring it up, adding certain things, anti-inflammatory um, things you can add, or properties of yerba mate, make it in a coffee maker, how much yerba to put in yerba mate, what to do after the first pour. What do you do after that first initial mate? And then um, while you shake the mate, preparing in a French press, the effects of yerba mate, adding lemon or ginger or coconut flakes or even honey. How long does the mate last? What time to stop drinking yerba mate? So all those and more we go through in this episode. So it's a great episode. Hope you really enjoy this. Hope this brings a lot of value to you guys. Shout out to our sponsors, the Yerba crew, for supplying the starter kit. So the gourd and the Yerba, Anapark Yerba, which you'll see in the video. Or if not, I'll put a little code down below because listeners get 20% off with the code PowerPod20, which I'll link down there below. And enjoy this episode.
Can you hear me?
Oh, hello.
Hello. Sorry about that. I was just trying to get set up here in the kitchen and let's get some hot water going and figure out how to do this.
Okay, so that's why I should have pre-coached that, right? So do you have anything to put hot water in, like a thermos or a cup or anything?
Yeah. Hold on.
Cool.
I'm trying to set this up so that I can be your test guinea pig. So I got this.
Okay.
I got this.
Okay.
Let me just open it. I didn't even open it. It's freshly cracked.
Nice.
Right? And then I got to grab my little, and I got my hot water that's just finishing boiling right now.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Definitely not boiling. Like probably 150 at the highest.
I'll let it drop.
Canadians, Celsius. That's probably like 60 or 70 Celsius, I think. I don't know if you measure in Fahrenheit or Celsius nowadays.
I hate Fahrenheit. Here, give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right. So my kettle. Got my kettle. I got my thing.
Cool.
There we go. So temperature right now, it's coming down. It's that hot. So.
Okay. So you could prepare it in that French press, which I can show you that that's easy. Just put it in there and put water. Done.
Yeah.
But to do it.
But how do I make it taste good?
Well,
let's do it both ways. Let's do both ways.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be
cool this down.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first time, I'll be honest, I'll tell anybody this, like don't expect, to like quote unquote taste good, right? It's a bitter tea. So that being said, it's like a green tea or whatever. So, if you like tea, great. If not, then might not be your cup of tea.
I do like green tea, so that's good. Is this
Have you ever had
anti-inflammatory? Not really. Never really had matcha.
Okay. That would be the other thing I know to compare to as far as that I don't know, bitterness or whatever.
Well, I'm trying to incorporate more green tea or matcha in my diet anyway to reduce inflammation. So I'm a big anti-inflammation kick right now.
So another selling point for yerba mate for sure. As far as those antioxidants, anti-inflammatory and stuff. So you can put turmeric in there if you want for an extra kick of anti-inflammatory. Doesn't mean it'll taste any better. Ginger as well. And so you can do both of those. In fact, there is a brand that I've had before that actually has, I think there's a couple I've found, but have ginger in it. But obviously it's probably better to just ginger yourself, put it in there, than it being, mixed process, what I'm saying? Just put fresh ginger, easy. But you can put that in your French press all together. Yep, you could do that all together just like that.
All right,
so as far as making it taste good, couple options are honey, stevia, of course sugar, but I would probably steer clear of that if you can, So yeah, I was gonna say honey is probably say whatever you got for sweetener, honey, honey, lemon.
All right.
stevia would be probably what I would say. Or another hack I've learned is shredded coconut flakes.
That's if
Because
you're
it
a fan of the
makes it a little bit
coconut.
sweeter without really putting any sweetener in it, cuts a little bit of the bitterness, I guess.
All
So,
right.
you want to do it this way first, or you want to do it like French press way first?
Let's do it both. This is your
Okay.
recording, right? So
All right. Yes.
let's do it the
Record.
trad way.
Okay.
And then
Let's do it this way
press.
because the traditional quote unquote mate way, because this is like the true learning point for people that it seems so complicated, and I get that because they're not used to it, but it's very simple, and I'll try to explain it. If you have questions, just please help me clarify, because this is good for me teaching, breaking it down to someone. So you just take your gourd and your yerba, which I got the same as you, the Anna Park, and you're just going to pour it into the cup, right?
How much do I put in?
So that's a good question. That I was going to say is that, let me show you and then try to explain my reasoning behind that. So if you'll see in the inside, okay, let me get a better view on the video there. So how I have that kind of hole or space there, and I have it at a, essentially 45-degree angle, right? And so essentially what I do as far as a way to measure it is that this part, which is the top of the mate, is kind of where my yerba is touching. Yeah, towards the lid. Yeah, towards the lip of the cup is kind of where the yerba is touching, and towards the bottom, but still leaving a kind of gap or hole there at the bottom, because that gap at the hole at the bottom right there is where I'm going to put the bombilla, the straw, and the water. So yes, just like that.
So I'm about correct?
Yep. So whatever that actual number is, as far as half or 3/4 or 1/3, I don't know. I've heard different things. As far as the actual measuring, and it's all relative, because it's kind of relative to the mate itself. Because you could have a huge gourd, and that wouldn't fill anything.
Half a cup.
About a half a cup. Okay. Well, now we know.
For this size.
For this size, yeah. Which is, I think this one's 8 ounces. So now.
Okay, there you go. Half a cup.
Now you got it poured where it's towards the lip, and then it has that space at the bottom, right? So what we do is we put our hand on top of it. This is just, I'm teaching you the way that I've learned, right? And then you shake it just a little bit.
All right.
Okay. And the reason why is you get some of the dust off. Mm-hmm. And the dust isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't like it. But also, that process of shaking it kind of brings the sticks and stuff, everything up kind of to the top, so that way you don't get it clogged. So you still want to get it settled to where it's still at that kind of 45-degree angle, right?
Okay.
So after you shake it, just basically reset it, So you still got that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now, do you have water that's, closer to 140 or 50, so closer to 60 or 70 Celsius?
Yeah. It's about it's about 160 or 170 right now.
Still a little hot for me personally, but that's fine as far as
it's not going to burn the leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Burn the leaves. Yeah, that's so when you understand that, but explaining that to people, it doesn't physically burn, obviously. It kind of basically oversaturates, I guess, or do you know what I'm saying when I say burn the leaves kind of?
Yeah. It's like with tea, any kind of tea that you use, like black tea or anything else, when you pour it in scorching hot water, it actually burns the leaves, and it extracts like a bitter flavor. Same with coffee, actually. And this is what I think a lot of people just don't understand about when you're adding hot water. It's like, let something boil and then let the rolling boil stop. And I always prefer my coffee at like 190 when a lot of people are like having it at scorching temperatures, right?
Yeah.
And same with tea. So it's like, I learned this from my Persian family. My wife's family is all Persian, and they're tea drinkers. So it's,
well, this is great because no, seriously, like it is explaining that as far as like you're basically burning it. In other words, you're, I guess, over extracting it or whatever. It's not giving it a chance to like develop, I guess. So anyways, I'm pouring what I'm doing.
Well, it also extracts those bitter flavors too, right? So
yeah, and it just kind of overdoes it, I guess. I don't know how to explain that in a more technical term, but So what I just did there is I'm just changing water just to make it easier for me to pour, period. That's just me.
Okay.
That it doesn't really matter the method. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take this water that I have in my thermos here, and I'm going to pour it, like we said before, in that gap down there, right?
Okay.
So we're first just going to pour a little bit of water. What I mean
All
by a
right.
little bit of water is literally just a splash of water in there at that bottom part. So
Okay.
now, obviously, I can't hold
I
this
knocked
back up
some
for
of
the
the
camera to see necessarily, but
I knocked the leaves back down. Is that cool?
yeah. So can you see mine there a little bit?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mine
the
looks like
water
that.
is down
I
there at the bottom. So
might just add
basically,
a
what
little
it's
bit
doing
more.
is it's soaking it up just a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
So as you understand the whole burning, right? So this is kind of creating a little bit of insulation. It's soaking up some of
You're
the leaves a little
tempering
bit
it.
there.
That's the cooking term for it. You're tempering it.
Okay, we're tempering tempering the
It's like
Yerba.
tempering eggs. That's why you
Yeah.
don't ever want to put eggs into too hot of a liquid because they'll curdle on you. So something tempering the tea.
So we're tempering the tea here. And then, so what I'm going to do is take the bombilla, the straw,
Mm-hmm.
with this end. So the spoon end is
Got
going to
it.
go down in there and see if I can explain and show you this motion. It's kind of like this, the back end of this
Yeah.
and the front end. How do I explain that? So this back
So the
end is
round,
going to be the
the
part that's
rounded.
coming towards your mouth, essentially. So
Okay.
essentially like a spoon motion. You're going to put it in there and scoop up, right?
Okay.
So in
This.
the way that it looks kind of like a spoon, it's kind of like that
Yeah.
motion. So it's going to go down in there, like touch the bottom, and then you just scoop up, which basically just hold it to where it sets on its own essentially.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now do I fill it up with
cool.
more? Because it's starting to creep out on me.
Yeah. So now
The
you're
tea's.
good as far as like this. It's good to go.
Okay.
You're officially set. So now you can lay it flat.
Okay.
So you've basically kind of set your bombilla in there.
Mm-hmm.
And people will say they use a thing called dummy water, which
Mm-hmm.
means that they'll put water at like a room temperature or something along those lines for that same purpose of like tempering it, so
Okay.
that way you don't put hot water right away. I personally don't do that, but that's because I don't use water as hot as other people, to be honest.
Okay.
I
So they're
found
not
most
using it
people
right at
use
boiling.
water a lot hotter than I do. And that's just my own personal preference.
Okay.
But I also think it makes it a little less complicated to have to do extra steps, I guess. So
All
now,
right. All right.
all you have to do is you're taking your water and you're going to pour it right in the same spot where the bombilla is. So
Okay. So
how to
down the.
so
So watch me.
yep,
Am I doing it? Am I doing it right? Right down
yep,
off the straw.
correct. And then
Okay.
till it basically, fills up, and then you just drink it. And you drink the whole thing. Obviously you're by yourself, but that's usually a thing I have to teach people is that you drink the whole cup. You don't, because people will take like one sip and then like pass it back to me. But that's
So
more
it's
of
not
the
like a bomb.
culture. Yeah,
Not like a bomb.
yeah, you finish the whole thing. Yeah. So
So we take it and we shoot
cheers.
it.
Yep.
Cheers.
Yep. Well, I
Evviva.
mean, drink
As
as
they
fast as
say,
you want
as my dad says in Greek, Evviva.
to. Eviva. Roast.
Okay.
Whatever. All right. So now I'll be silent. Let you tell me what you're thinking.
Okay. First off, I might add it a little too hot for like chugging it, but you're right. It tastes like. It definitely tastes like green tea, but with a lot more bitterness to it. Like there's a definite bitterness to it and an earthiness to it. So when I'm tasting it, I'm tasting a lot of the earthy undertones. So it's almost like I'm not going to say fresh cut grass, but yeah, I would say just like green tea, just like green tea.
Okay. Fair enough. And I appreciate your honesty and also I think it's kind of cool you didn't just make a face, but I always like
Well,
to
you
see,
know why?
you know.
Because it's not bad. Like if you okay, so I'm a person who drinks his coffee black. I
Hmm.
really enjoy green tea, like, and I don't put sweeteners and stuff into a
Hmm.
lot of my drinks. So for
Hmm.
me, I don't have a palate that needs sweetness, right? Per
Hmm.
se.
Yep.
What it is missing is a fragrance,
Hmm.
right? Like, so if you're comparing this to other teas or other things like that, those teas, this is really earthy. So the
Hmm.
whole thing about this is it tastes, there is a bitterness to it. So if you're a person who's adverse to bitterness, then you
Hmm.
might want to doctor it a bit, right? In my
Yep.
mind.
Yep.
Um,
So before you, and limit one thing, and then I'll go back to what you're saying. So don't move you can touch the bombilla as far as that goes. That's okay. But don't move the bombilla.
okay.
And this is the huge rule as far as mate. Um, and the one thing is because if you're drinking with other people, they'll get pissed. But the truth is that because if you move it too much, you'll like kind of unsuction it basically in the sense, and then you'll
Mhm.
start getting, like leaves up into the bombilla, or you'll get it stuck and get it kind of
Okay.
clogged and stuff. So that's just the reason really behind not moving the bombilla. But also it's just, yeah, it's like poor manners, I guess you could say. But so now going back to what you were saying, and that's the thing that I've tried to get people to understand because you know, you guys that don't know Pete, he's actually Canadian. So, um, and he's also, more internationally, I guess, because your wife, is Persian ancestry, and so I guess you're more open to those kind of things. And I hate to say this, but my fellow Americans usually are adverse to bitterness stuff. They'll drink black coffee, but then it's only those select few people. It's very niche. Like most people want it really sweet with cotton candy flavors or pumpkin spice or whatever. So
Yep.
usually that is kind of the hard selling point of like, hey, there's no cotton candy in this, or whatever. Yeah, earthy definitely is, the green tea. And because, I mean, it comes from a tree, in South America. And this one specifically, Anna Park, is organic. Um, it's one of the better ones I found in Argentina as far as organic ones. And they do a lot for use renewable energy as far as uh, even the earth, no pesticides and all that kind of stuff. So it does have a different flavor than some of the other ones, but
So
some of
I
them
have
can be even more bitter.
yeah. So I have a question though.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this right now, and
Hmm.
to me, I didn't steep it like I would a tea. I didn't get it all the way up and cover. Like there are still a lot of
Yes.
dry leaves here.
Yes. That's exactly how it should be. So now I was going to tell you before we get to the second pour. So you've already
Okay.
done one. So now the second pour, you're still going to pour in the same spot with the bombilla. And yes, the rest of it should be dry. In other words, you're not going to wet the whole thing. You can, but you'll basically ruin it in the sense of, it's kind of like you take a tea bag and you only dip part of the tea bag in the water and then a little bit more and then a little bit more. Or maybe I don't know how else to describe it, but basically you're only using part of that so that it makes it last longer. Because if you wet it all at once, or if you put water in the whole thing at once, basically, I mean, that's it, really. It'll be, washed up after, two uses. Versus the way you drink in your mate this traditional way, you can drink a whole liter of water with the same cup, the same little 8 ounce,
Oh, okay.
because you're going to
Okay.
continue to pour until it's kind of wet. And then after a while, yes, some of the parts that's dry, you'll want to slowly add water to. So by the end of that, liter, the whole thing will be, yes, wet, I guess, as far as water on it.
Okay.
Does that make
And the thing
sense?
is, I don't want to be stirring. I don't want to be like incorporating it. I just want to pour on
Correct.
top and keep drinking
Yep.
through the Bobia straw and through the filter. Okay.
I just
So
realized I could
you and
just take my camera off so you can actually see
yeah. And
my,
if I do
hold
the
on,
same
backwards.
thing, if I do the same thing here with mine, take a look there. That's the second pour.
Yes, great.
Okay.
Looks good. Trying to get a good
So
angle here. It's like doing this
at the
like
beginning,
backwards, but
you and I were talking about how do you do this if I wanted to like do French press. Like say I'm not in a communal setting, I'm at home, it's lunchtime, and I want to hit myself up some yerba mate for my afternoon lull, right? Instead of coffee. I like
yeah.
using a French press. And I actually was loving your ideas of how do I doctor this a little bit to add a few more like antioxidants into it. Like, because I'm drinking it, I want to drink it for the health benefits more than
Yeah.
the social Latin American benefits, since I don't know
Sure.
any Argentinians in my
Yeah.
sphere of influence.
Yeah.
So,
So
uh,
so I'll tell you one hack that I've learned, um, even quicker than French press, because just about every American or every probably North American person has a coffee maker in their house. You
Uh-huh.
can just pour yerba in the filter, the coffee filter, in your coffee maker. Done. Brew it just like you would coffee. Just pour in yerba mate
Uh-huh.
in the coffee filter. Done. There you go in like 2 or 3 minutes. Now, as far as the French press, basically the same thing, just like you would coffee. You're putting the grinds in the French press, but just substitute it with yerba mate. Now, how
Yeah, so
much
I
to
could
put in
use
there?
half a cup
Probably,
because
yeah, probably a couple tablespoons to be honest. Probably not a half cup, I don't think, but
well,
um,
I put a half cup in this, right? And how
yeah,
many
but
of
it's
this should I get out of it? Let's do the math because I'm an engineer too. So
yeah.
let's do the math
So
on this.
yeah, on all, and I will say some different blends of yerbas last longer, like as far as getting more flavor out of it, I guess. Um, but you should get about a liter of water out of, this.
Okay. So yeah, so if I have a liter, if I have like
So I don't know how many
half a
pours that
liter,
would
so
be in a liter, but
okay.
that'd be something to count, I guess, or math wise.
Now, as I'm ingesting this, right, what, because it's obvious, yerba mate is always kind of compared to coffee in terms of caffeine and the energy level, and but not crashing as hard. So, um, it's noon my time, right, where I'm having this. I'm testing it
Uh-huh.
out because I want to see how it helps with my afternoon lull and everything else.
hmm
What should
hmm
I expect?
Well, it's a great question. Now, this is going to be a question I want to ask you later, maybe in a couple hours or maybe in a week or two. Like what was that experience for me personally? In about 2 or 3 pours, like already right now, which is technically I've done three, I start to feel kind of like a little bit more alert, clarity, um, I guess energetic, for lack of a better word. It for me it picks me up after about the third pour, but
Mm-hmm.
then for me it kind of, I don't know, I hate to sound woo woo or whatever, but for me it kind of unlocks a little bit of creativity and just I guess the alertness maybe and um, the just the clarity I guess in your mind. And so it's more a awareness I think than it is a necessarily like a I'm gonna just go punch through a wall kind of thing, right? Um, so um, as far as how long will it last, since you're new to it, but you're also a coffee drinker, I'd be curious to find out there. For me, I'd probably say 2 to 3 hours depending, you know. Um, but I don't know. I've never actually measured it, so this gives me interesting things to think about. Um,
Okay. So
but
what
I would
I'm doing
say
right
just it's
now,
just the alertness and the clarity. I think is just, and you all may experience it a different way. And
okay.
we'll get probably some energy as far as just kind of some pep and stuff and whatnot. But I
Okay.
see
So
you're putting
what I'm doing
some
is I'm
lemon
putting some lemon
juice in
in.
there. Huh?
Yeah, some lemon juice and some ginger because I
Okay.
wanted to experiment with the different
Yeah.
flavors. You said it's totally okay to do this, right?
Yep. Totally okay.
All right.
Um,
Let's
you know,
let's hit
and
this thing.
yeah, you can mix that before or after. I don't think there's any really right or wrong answer to that. I
Would this
think if
be
you probably put it in before,
sacrilege
no, no,
in
I
Latin
think if you put
America?
it before, you might get a little bit more infusion of it, but I think after, I don't think either one's, no, neither one of those are problems. However, I will say if you wanted to infuse it a little bit more, you could put the lemon and the ginger in the water itself,
Okay.
and then
So
that away. Yeah.
I just grated a bit of ginger, squeezed, half, not even half a lemon, right? Just one good
hmm
squeeze of lemon in here.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, the taste profile
Yeah.
is awesome. And so I
You like
also
that?
pulled out some honey. I'm not going to put honey in, but I think
Yeah.
if you're a person who wants something sweeter,
Yeah.
like that's the way to go. But just by adding the lemon, it takes
hmm
away that underlying
That's a
bitterness,
little bit.
actually almost entirely.
Yeah. So that was the thing I was
Oh
saying before
yeah.
to me, as far as like the coconut flakes was a pretty cool invention for me that my wife was telling me about. As far as giving you a little bit of sweetness and cutting out some of the bitterness. Honey is obviously a go-to. I personally don't put honey. I know other people that do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but if you can drink it without the honey, probably better, right?
Yeah.
Um, So
you were saying turmeric as well. If I wanted to like create an antioxidant bomb with this.
oh yeah, yeah, dude. Ginger, lemon, turmeric, probably some cinnamon. Oh yeah, that's talk about a yeah,
Okay,
anti-inflammatory
so
bomb. Yeah.
what I'm going to do tomorrow then is I'm going to kind of track my feelings, because even now you're right. At 3 cups, I'm actually starting to feel it in my head. Like I'm starting to feel that kind of caffeine rush
Hmm.
a little bit. But it's going to be curious to see. Like tomorrow, I'm going to use the French press, and I'm going to put in my ginger, my honey, my
Yeah.
turmeric, my cinnamon, my lemon, and then I'm going to just put in like half a cup or a quarter of a cup, and then the
Yeah.
water. And I'm going to see how that works, because
Hmm.
yes, like this is cool, but I want to experience I'm making it in bulk, and then I'm just going to drink.
Yeah. So with the French press, the only thing I'm sure you know this, but just like any tea, the longer you let it sit and steep, the more bitter it's going to become. So,
Yeah.
just for whatever it's worth, as far as in the French press. Same with actually if you're pouring it this way, if you pour water into the mate and then let it sit for a minute or two before you drink it, it's going to be more bitter than if you pour it right away and drink it right away. So, I mean,
Well,
that's
that's what's happening.
just like
That's what's
any tea.
happening right now.
Yeah. It's just like any tea, really, as far as that
But
goes.
it's good. And for me, very much like green tea. It's just kind of now shifting it, shifting my afternoon habit to doing this for a couple of weeks and seeing how it turns out.
So one thing, and I don't know about you, but for me, as far as, I get it with the social thing, but preparing it like this and all the whole process is also a ritual for me. If like just the same way as, you grind your own beans and you put them in, that kind of stuff. Same with, French press or anything else. It's kind of that ritual. So I don't know if that does anything for you, but putting the French press is just as easy. And like you said, that
For,
teach their own. And that's one thing I want to teach everyone is like you don't have to do it this way to enjoy it. So
well, and I think for me, one of the things that my what was the impetus for me to reach out to you and to try out the yerba mate was really about revolving around changing my diet to have more anti-inflammatory type of components to it. And
mm,
if I can implement one thing kind of every day that helps to up my ante, you know, that was really intriguing to me. And so for
yeah,
the way that you're describing it too, it's like, yeah, if I was in a cultural setting, yeah, I definitely want to do it that way. But this, the French press kind of idea for me allows me to add the ginger, the turmeric, how can I make this like a super drink for my 12 o'clock,
yeah,
so that I'm not crashing at 2, and I'm, replenishing. If I'm doing one thing, I like to super stack it like Atomic Habits,
sure, yeah. Well, there are studies. I don't know, you can look it up yourself, I'm sure, but about the immunity as well, for because of the antioxidants and stuff, right? So immune system, things like that. So, um, not to diss coffee in any means because I like coffee too, but it's kind of that's the thing is like you still get your caffeine and still get the energy and stuff, but it's just in a I don't know, like you said, if stacking extra things in your advantage. So
So I have a question then. What time should I stop drinking this if I want to go to
good
sleep?
good question because what time do you stop drinking coffee?
Usually I won't drink coffee after 3 p.m.
I'd probably say the same for mate then. Just
Okay.
as a rule of thumb. I would say probably just the same as you would for any caffeinated drink, you know?
Okay. So as long
That's
as
that's
I'm
just
not
my
chugging it,
blanket statement, yeah.
yeah, yeah, because that's the problem. Whenever I go to my in-laws, they'll be pouring tea at like 7 p.m. and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I haven't any of that.
No, I mean, believe me, I've done it too, drink way too late and then I'm up at, 11 like so
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how my body reacts to this, to see what kind of noon difference this makes, and go from there. And I'll
no,
check in with you, and I'll check with you in about 2 weeks, maybe after the Christmas holidays,
yeah.
and give you the 2 week assessment.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm excited that you for doing it and trying it with me and because especially teaching someone over the internet like you know it's different experience showing you, and you did great, and versus like literally kind of doing it for someone like when they're here in person. So, anyways,
All right. To your health, to
yeah,
your
to your health, Pete.
family. Happy
Mm-hmm.
holidays, Merry Christmas, Devin. Thank you for walking me through this
You as well.
experience.